Keenan.
Hey,
Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me,
Well,
Aruna?
yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that the weather cooperated. I was afraid that the tropical storm that
I
blows through New
know.
Orleans is gonna interfere with our chat. So I'm glad you made it. I'm
Me
glad you're
too.
safe. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah.
Um, I was just introducing you, and told them how like you opened the Facebook group called Knitting Bartender, and that's where we've met. And so the group went basically like I feel like the idea of you organizing the group was the same idea behind us organizing the group, me and David van de Kamp. So it was just the frustration with the big knitting groups and the
Yes.
feeling
They're
that
crazy.
you can't post anything, you can't say anything.
Yeah, they're really controlling. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to have a group where people could promote themselves because that's what
Right,
this is about as well. And also teach and learn. You know, it doesn't matter what your skill level is. And also to have a mix of people so that it would be more diverse community.
right,
Because the stereotype of someone who knits is someone who is older and female. And
right.
those people are part of that knitting
Ex
community, and we
exist.
love and respect them until they become pearl clutchers. But I
Right,
wanted younger people, and I wanted guys, and I wanted trans people. I wanted everyone to feel welcome.
right.
And so that's what we have. I'm so proud of everyone who's part of that group.
Well, my question to you, let's talk about the original five. Who were the five people that went with you into that group? Were
They
they
were
like
like,
close personal friends?
no, they were people who belonged to some of the other knitting groups that were kind of fed up too. And I said, we should start our own group. And they went, yeah. And I'm like, who wants to be an admin with me? And everyone, it was like crickets. So I went, okay, well, I'll do it myself. So those people stayed, and I don't even remember who they were, but we have 6,800 people now in the group,
Right.
and that's awesome. You know, it's not about
Do you have,
numbers. Uh,
right. Do you have like anything that you learn as a administrator of the group that you like, oh, that's why they had those rules? Like, do you ever have the moment of like, geez, I wish I had one rule that I could add to the group, but now it's too late? Or is it
no,
like smooth
not at,
sailing?
no, I don't. And the reason for that is because everyone's an adult, and I expect them to act like one. If they can't be one, they can leave the group. You know, there are some people who will like announce that they're leaving, and I don't see it until my friends point it out, and I go, "Oh, okay, bye." You know, because I don't have time for that, and most of the people in the group don't either. You know, that's not what we're here for. And
Right.
most of the people who leave are it's because I posted a picture of a guy semi-nude wearing knitting, or maybe not. And it really is. I only post that to get people's attention to go, hey, we have a Zoom meeting, Sunday,
Right.
join. Because if not, people have short attention spans. They're just scrolling really quickly through their feed.
Right.
So I have a short
And also
attention
like
span.
when
I'm untangling a skein of Ching yarn that I'm doing for a project.
that's fine. Um, do you do you notice that like when you're doing the Zoom meetings, right? So you don't have um like limited Zoom meetings. You just do like people come and go as they please, and it's sort of like this social outlet, especially during COVID. It's like
Yeah,
been
it's
really
it's
helpful to help introduce people to each other.
mhm.
Is there like ever any drama there, or is it all like very relaxed and chattery?
For the most part, it's chill. There's always a couple people who join where you're just like, But what we did to solve that problem was Nicole Tobias is the host of the group. She's awesome and one of my good friends. And, we set up breakout rooms, which we haven't
Mhm.
had to use recently, but that was so that we could kind of give everyone a chance to talk, because the meetings do get to be big. Sometimes you'll have 30 people in it, and you can't
Right.
have 30 people in one screen. And they're timed, so we kind of shuffle people around. You get to talk to different people and meet them. So it's like speed dating, which I like. You know,
Right.
uh, but for the most part, they're fun. Everyone, shares their ideas, their skills, their creativity. It's a great place to get feedback. If you've picked out a few skeins for a project and you
Right.
just want to get people's opinion. So
Um, Tell me a little bit, like I've heard your interview with Christy Glass, obviously, because
yeah,
you know it's like this is one of my favorite podcasts on YouTube. Um, so you started knitting as a child, and so did your siblings, right?
yeah,
Um,
because we were
was it
bad
always,
kids.
well, there's no such a thing. Kids are kids, you know. It's like, especially when they're in groups, you know, it's like
Yeah.
hoarding cats. You sort of have to keep them engaged with something. But like, was it always part of your life? Did you ever take breaks from it? Um, were you ever teased as a kid that you were knitting and that was like what grandmas do?
Um, so it was something that I was so used to doing in public because we do it at the doctor's office. That's how my mother got us all to sit still. That it
Right.
never was a thing. You know, in my teens, I had like a messenger bag with my knitting. I'd walk down the street. No one ever said anything. I mean, people would look. I don't really care. I'm 41 now. I've gotten to the point where my give a S factor is gone. Um, but I think it's pretty cool. My grandfather taught my mom how to knit, and she taught me. I didn't have a dad growing up; he just was not present. And
Right.
so the way it worked was my mother was like, "I'm going to teach you what I learned, what I know," and that was so valuable to me. Um, and she also always gave me the space to be creative. So, you know, I was the kid who'd kind of like go off in the woods or be in my room, just kind of brainstorming and thinking of all kinds of stuff that I could create. And that's just always been my personality.
Right. And you mentioned also that your grandpa was the Holocaust survivor and that he
Yep.
was knitting in the concentration camp, and that's how he basically survived because he was productive.
Yep.
Do you feel like now when you knit, like I notice it for myself because my grandma taught me how to knit, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like every project I make, I always think of her, like she's always part of my like everyday life just
Yeah.
because of the knitting. Do you feel that connection like also?
I feel that with my mom. My grandfather passed away before I was born, so I never really knew him, but we have a lot of the same interests, knitting, obviously, and also I'm a rosarian. I have English roses that I care for.
Right.
So,
Um, and so was your mom impressed with how your knitting took off? Like, are you a better knitter than she is? Like,
yeah, I am. I love my mom. She taught me garter stitch, and then I taught myself the rest. But she's really into making ponchos and serapes and stuff. That's her jam. She likes a lot of color. You can see I wear a lot of, um, neutrals, drabs. I don't know.
right,
I like Ralph Lauren is one of my inspirations. I like English style clothing. I figured out later on in life that Ralph Lauren was using kind of like English country fashion, um,
right,
which made sense because it's traditional and it'll never go out of style. So that's what you see here.
right. Talk a little bit about your hats. Like, you have the whole collection, every picture, you have a different hat. Like,
Yeah.
how do you, where do you buy them? How do you pick them? How do you make them go with what outfit? Like, and my dad, by the way, is obsessed with hats. He has like everything from like a Captain Marine hat to like the Cuban like little straw thing, like
Okay.
anything you can think of. So like I'm always like when I see men in hat, it's always like near and dear to my heart.
Well, so I don't have hair, so the only way to change my hairstyle is to change the hat. That's how that works. But this particular hat and the ones that you see like this, these paperboy hats are by Mucros Weavers in Ireland. And you can see this does not match this, but you can mix and match. That's what I
Right.
appreciate about this kind of style. What you're probably used to seeing me wear is a trilby. Um, you're probably used to this. This is what started to be my
Right.
signature last year. This is just Levi's, but I like it. It's great for the summer, and you know, so different
Right.
hairstyle now.
So, and when you knit, like, how do you pick the projects that you need? Do
Sure.
you
So
usually gravitate towards like larger projects, or like I know you do some hats, but like I always see these like gorgeous cabled sweaters on you. So like what's your go-to design usually?
So my go-to design is always cables. This is what I'm working on right now. It's from the Japanese Stitch Dictionary, and then I threw in a Saxon braid. So I'm designing a sweater vest.
Hmm.
Wanted to drop it this fall. So the more complicated, the more interested I am. I've started doing color work. Michael Green, who you interviewed, has been really
Yeah.
helpful. So is Crafty Lucas, who I love. Um, just to kind of practice, this is one of Luke's designs that I did. I
Yeah.
love this one. It was super easy if you're just beginning with color work. So mainly that's what I do.
I actually love watching him because he's so efficient with his movements. Like his
Yes.
floats don't intercept, so it's like it's all super fast, and like I'm really, he's gonna be my next interview, so I'm super excited about that.
You're gonna
one
have
too.
fun with Luke. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
But my guilty pleasure is knitting Stephen West stuff because it's totally not what I would design, but I absolutely love it. So I'm doing the Sea Swell shawl right now. And that's why, as I'm talking to you, I'm like actually untangling a skein of chink
That's so
fiber.
funny to me because you are very like conservative sort of, I mean, for the lack of better word, in your designs, they all like one color, like very classic. And then Stephen West is the complete opposite of that spectrum where he goes crazy with all the colors and mixes and everything. So it's interesting how like you do both.
Well, I've always
do you
been
ever like mix and match? Like, do you put your sweater with his shawl on, or
no? So you know, it's like the two personalities of Keenan. I have always been that way. I've always liked antique furniture, like you know, architecture. But then on the flip side, I like modern. So like if you got a Dwell magazine, I love that stuff. But I have to have both.
If you were to go to a knitting festival, what would you wear?
Ooh, I think I would have a few things. You'd probably see me like running in and out of the bathroom, costume changing, especially Bryanback, right? That would be fun.
Are you going to come to Bryanback?
I want to. So I won't be able to make this one, but I definitely want to go next year. And I was talking to my friends about it. We were thinking of getting an Airbnb. It'd be really cool. So
you have to do it like a year in advance somehow. I was trying to book something in Bryanback, and everything within like 6 miles radius is sold out already for this year.
Oh, easily. Yeah. So you just rent a car with your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to drag my husband there just to show him that people that don't knit having as much fun at Bryanback as people who do knit, because I actually believe that. Like I went there 2 years ago, and there were like these families with little children, with the grandparents, like the whole thing, and the food is like amazing, and there's all the live animals. There's like so much to see that you don't even necessarily have to be a knitter to enjoy it.
I agree with that. And, you know, people who are fiber artists, I think we're pretty interesting people. We have, you know, all different kinds of things that we do. I called myself Knitting Bartender because I don't just knit, you know. I wanted to mash up two words that made absolutely no sense to anyone, but lots to me. So that I could use
Talking about that, like I noticed that you said that you're planning to do some Zoom classes for the cocktail mixes. Do you do that already? Like, have you been doing it?
I'm actually drinking one of my cocktails that I'd like to teach. So Nicole Tobias was actually the brain behind it. She recommended that I do some workshops on cocktails. I wanted to do it this summer, and then I got a call to work on a film. And so I kind of put that on the back burner. I'd love to do it this fall if I do have time.
Yeah, please. I would like totally sign up for that.
Yeah. I've got another movie after this that I have to do. That one I can tell you about. It's called Emancipation. It's a Will Smith movie. So
like, since we're talking about movies, and I know that you can't say anything about the one that you're right now in, but like, how did you get like into that at first place?
Yeah, so really short version is I was studying to be a physical therapist in Chicago. I decided that wasn't for me, and the relationship that I was in was just, so I came back to New Orleans, needed a job, and my best friend's husband hired me as a bartender. And from there, that was my springboard to meet a guy named Paul Abraham, who's been doing craft services forever. That's what we do on the film set. And he said, hey, do you want to work a few days on a movie? And I was like, yeah. And then I got on the movie and I was like, oh, remember the money. You remember the money, because it really is hard work. You're sweating all day. Insect bites when you get home. You're bruised up and cut. Everyone thinks what I do is hand out chips and cookies. They have no idea. I've actually lost all of my COVID weight that I gained sitting and knitting because I'm so active all the time. So
Right.
if you want to lose weight quickly and make a lot of money,
Go into the movies.
yeah, become a grip or work in craft services.
Right. Um, and you also mentioned that you've done some theater like earlier, that like you
Yeah.
did the costumes and stuff. Like, can you tell us a little about that
Yeah, sure.
part of your
So
life?
yeah, no problem. So when I was a teenager, I auditioned and was accepted to NOCA, which is New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. It's a fantastic conservatory that you go to half day while you're in a regular high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I auditioned for theater. They laughed through my audition. My talented and arts teacher told me from another school, "Oh, do an English accent. They're going to love it." And I did. It was Romeo and Juliet, the death scene. And they were like, "Yeah, are you sure you don't want to play football?" And I was pissed. And I said, "No, I'm going to be in this program." And they said, "Great, you're in." So, you know, getting into that program was really good because I did get to do costuming for Le Petit Theater. That was a lot of fun. I met a lot of interesting and really talented costume designers. And, you know, the other part of it too that was awesome was that, you know, think about teenagers who are really self-conscious. You go into a theater program, you don't have time for that. You're on stage,
Right.
everyone's looking at you. And so it really pushed me out of my shell because I was a very quiet kid. And I hadn't come out of the closet yet. And man, when I came out, I did it. I did it up. I had bleach blonde hair. I had short cutoff shorts. They said at my normal high school, you know, girls can't wear shorts certain length above the knee, but it did not specifically say men couldn't. So, yeah, I went crazy. I want everyone to know.
Right. So like so talking of conservatory, you also play a bunch of instruments, right?
I do. And your son is an amazing pianist. Oh my God. So the first. Mm-hmm.
He's pretty good. And the funny part that he's, I mean, he's not a professional pianist, right? So he actually went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he's actually a software engineer at Google. So
Good.
it's like that's the hobby that he does on the side. And the interesting thing about it, when he was at MIT, I mean, he was taking like 7 classes per semester. The kid went nuts, right?
Yeah.
He just like wanted to show the world how it's done. So he finished MIT in like 1 year less than normally, and then he did masters in a year. Like, it was just like, but with all that, 2 o'clock in the morning was when he went to the private piano rooms, and he was playing piano. And I was like, Daniel, like, but you need to sleep, you need to rest. And he's like, I would go absolutely insane if I don't have a few hours of piano every day.
Yes, you need that creative
was his
outlet.
meditation, like that was his place of peace. That was like
Absolutely.
his way to relax, you know.
Yeah, you have to
so
have
talk
that
about you.
Okay, yeah, sure. We'll
like...
go back to me. No, I play cello, piano, violin, and Irish flute. I've been to Ireland a couple times. My best friend's dad is from there, and she teaches Irish dance summer camp in Mount Shannon, which is County Clare. So it's like, I think, 45 minutes from Limerick. Anyway, I scraped together the money a few years ago to go the first time, and I was hooked. Part of that program that she did involved a music program. So there was a guy named Brendan Grogan, and he's a farmer out there, and on the side he taught lessons, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I kind of went crazy. You know how like you have a big yarn stash? That's kind of what I did with Irish flute. So I have 3, and they're not cheap.
What was your first instrument? Like, where did you, what was the first your, you know, beginning of the music?
My first instrument was cello, and I love it because it's the closest thing to the human voice. I took voice lessons, and I cannot sing at all. Like, I cringe when I listen to recordings. So the cello is my favorite, and I've been doing that for a long time. One of my favorite teachers, who's still a friend of mine, her name is Carol. She made me laugh my first lesson, and she did that on purpose because she knew that I was nervous, like most people are, you know, kids. Right. And she was like, this should be fun. You know, it's the same way with knitting. Anything that is involves the arts should be relaxing to do. It should not feel uncomfortable. So I did cello.
Yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm sorry that I interrupted.
No, it's okay.
I was talking to this friend of mine, and she was saying how like she's so stressed because her other friend, who is a designer, just popped like 3 patterns published them while having a 1-year-old child at home, and she's like so overwhelmed with all the unfinished things that she's working on. And I said, listen, it's knitting. It's supposed to be for pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's supposed to be relaxing. Like
Yes.
once it stops being relaxing, you have to start asking yourself, is it like really stress worthy, you know?
I agree with that. I can tell you that the first sweater that I designed was last year, that my tech editor took a long time to get it back to me. I built up all the excitement and I was just ready to roll and publish it. And then, in January, I was like, I'm going to put 11 patterns out. And then I got this job in the movie. And I was stressing out like, oh, I still need to stay relevant. I need to put all this out. I'm going to take my time because you know what? Honestly, no one is pointing a leaf blower of money at me to like design stuff. So I'll do it on my terms and on my time schedule.
But it's also like, I feel like when you put time into it, when you're not rushed through, it speaks through the design. Like sometimes you rush with the design and just want to like get something out, and it's not necessarily, speaks to your heart, and then somehow people feel it. Like
I agree with you. Well, it's the same thing with cooking. If I cooked you a meal and I rushed through it, you'd be like, Keenan, why did you do this? With my designs, I don't do that. So it takes me about 4 days to write a pattern. And then I don't use sample knitters. For the most part, I haven't really used test knitters. I've had one test knitter. So I am a one-man show. And if I wouldn't wear it, I certainly wouldn't publish it for anyone else. Also, on the flip side, as someone who's knitted for a long time, I want a pattern that is easy to understand. All the questions, for the most part, are answered. It drives me nuts when I get a pattern and there are just holes in it where I don't understand what's going on. And I have to think back and all that. So I try to avoid that, which means you get an 11-page pattern.
Right.
So, that's the trade-off. There's no one page. A lot of magazines will do that.
Right. They like shorten they give you a short version, but then you sort of like have to scratch your head and like, okay, so what do you mean between here and there? What do I do exactly?
Correct. Which is why I don't buy magazines anymore. One, I would wind up hoarding them. I don't need kindling, if the house caught on fire. But I like the idea of the PDF patterns. This is fantastic. I love Ravelry. I know they've been around a long time.
Right.
And I'm just now coming to the party. So
do you feel like surprised by the amount of support you get from your group? Like the amount of, like, I know that when I announced that I'm interviewing you, like the whole group went nuts. Like they such huge fan of yours. And then I've been like, I got DMs from like some of the people from the group, and they're like, I just have to make sure, like, when exactly is that? Like, I just want to make sure that I see the interview. So it's like, how does it feel to have all that? Like, did you expect it when you opened the group?
No, I didn't. So if I, like from the beginning, last year, there was all a bunch of negativity on Facebook and I almost left Facebook, period. I didn't belong to any groups. And it was like a split decision to join a whole bunch of knitting groups and then ultimately create my own. So I did not expect the response that I got. And I mean, it's really sweet. It's overwhelming. Everyone in my group knows that I genuinely do care about them. If they need help with something, and they're not a douche about it.
Right. Right.
I'm there to help them. And that's why we do the Zoom meetings too, to try to keep people connected and to connect new people. Because I want for everyone else what I've had the opportunity to experience, which is meeting people all over the world. Like, this is awesome.
Right. Right. I mean, that's my favorite thing about like the knitting groups and the Instagram, because I feel like I got introduced to like so many amazing people. And it's also like very inspirational to me, because oftentimes I'm like, I finish some project, right, that takes me for a while. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do next? Like, I need to have something in my hands, but like I'm a one project girl.
Yeah.
And so I start like, I'm just like going through my feed, and then suddenly this thing jumps at me, or this thing jumps at me. And it's like suddenly the ideas are flying. So it's like, it's really, really inspirational. And it also introduces you to like all different kinds of techniques. So like I saw Duke of Nico, and then I'm like, double knitting. Okay, now we have to like learn double knitting. It's like the Stephen West, it was like, brioche, let's go. So it's like, it's a lot of this inspirational like people and ideas that like, and sometimes it just gives you idea of like of the project you want to try, you know, not necessarily the pattern, but just like some sort of
Absolutely.
like, how do you come up with the patterns for your design, like the ideas for your designs? Like, do you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, so we're gonna do this cable, or do you open the Japanese Bible and like, okay, I like this cable, what can I make out of it? Like, how does it work?
So all different kind of things go into what I design. Most of it goes based off of feeling. So I have a lot of reference books with cables. Obviously, you know, I'm not sitting here recreating the wheel,
Right.
but it's the way that you put the cables together. It's the fibers that you use and stuff like that. So a lot of times what I do when I'm thinking of a design and I'm looking at different kind of like cable patterns is I'll play a movie through my head, if that makes sense. It's not one I've
Right.
seen, it's my own movie. And kind of think about like, what backdrop do I want to take this photo against for this pattern design? You know, what do I want to convey to the person who is, you know, going to purchase this pattern? Just stuff like that. I don't know. You'd have to jump inside my head, boo. It's there's a lot going
Well,
on
I'm
in here.
trying. That's why we're here.
I don't know if I can like articulate everything that goes into it, but honestly, yeah, it's just movies and stuff. I'll also listen to music, and that'll kind of give me some kind of inspiration for you know, what I want to do next. It could be instrumental music, it could be anything. I mean, when I first started doing this, I was like up at 4:30 in the morning listening to like fucking AC/DC Dirty Deeds while I'm talking to somebody in Australia, thinking up patterns.
Right.
So
When you work, do you ever have your projects with you, and like if there is a slow moment, you start knitting, or is it a no-no?
that's a huge no-no, and I don't have downtime like that. When you're on a movie set, honestly, you're strapped to your walkie-talkie, and as soon as you hear them call you, you have to be listening all the time. You have to be able to respond.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be working in
Do
the film
you,
industry long if I was knitting.
but do you love it? Like, is it something you like so happy that you're doing, or is it just like a money gig?
No, I actually do love it, and you know, honestly, and my boss knows this. The reason that I'm working in the film industry is because my mother is a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and she's worked hard all her life and really sacrificed herself for her children. And so what I wanted to do was build her a house. I already have the land out in the country, 2 acres, $10,000 cash. It's beautiful out there. And I have to build minimum 1,300 square feet. So what I want to do is split that down the middle and build 2 small homes, one for her retirement and obviously one for myself. So that's why I'm doing this to begin with. Same thing with the knitting, you know. I want to do something that makes me happy, that I actually enjoy. I come from the jewelry industry. It did not make me happy. I made an ass load of money doing it, but I really got tired of vice presidents telling me, Keenan, if you're tired, we can replace you tomorrow, when I was doing well. So I'm not that person. I always tell people, treat me like Joan Rivers, like I'm an old white woman and I don't need this fucking job. I'm very quick to walk away from something if it does not make me happy now at my age, which is still young. Well, I can't retire yet.
Exactly. You're still a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about the drink you're drinking.
So what I'm drinking is called a Summer Solstice, and you use Hendrick's Midsummer Solstice Gin, which has a lot of florals and botanicals. It's fantastic. You use a little simple syrup in there. You also use Bitterman's Burlesque Bitters, a few drops of that, and some fresh grape juice. And Irina, you got to try one. They're amazing.
It sounds like exactly the drink I'll enjoy. I love every ingredient you mentioned.
Well,
actually, a friend of mine. Yeah, go for it.
No, I want to ask you about your shawl that you're wearing. Is that brioche?
Oh, it's actually not a shawl. It's actually like almost a sweater.
That's beautiful.
So that's like Suzanne Summers. Yeah, it's brioche. It's actually like 2 different. There's like parts of it where it's blue on white, and the other parts that it's totally reversible. So I actually like it a lot.
Dude, you're a phenomenal fiber artist. I've looked at your stuff. Like when you started posting on KB, I was just like, who is this? Oh, okay.
Well, I figure, you know what it's like. there are a lot of great fiber artists, but I figure like I'll have fun with the pictures as well. And I think like that's what you and I have in common. We don't just like post picture of the knitting, we post ourselves also. So that's like you sense the personality through the pictures, you know. It's like a lot of people shy away from that. But I actually like I always
you should post your joy, like for doing it.
No, every time I see somebody post just like, you know, a shawl spread on the bed, and I'm like, that's pretty. Can you post it now on yourself? Like throw it around yourself and like go model it, you know? So I'm always trying to encourage people to be their own project models, you know, and I love that you're doing that.
Well,
and also like another thing I wanted to ask you about. So I met Michael Green and like some of the other guys at the Knitting Bartender actually with the Men and Shawl hashtag when that whole thing with Romy Hill happened, like that her son modeled couple shawls and then everybody started leaving, like, and those probably are the same people that left your group at some point when you posted those naked guys. And there's some good looking naked guys in there. But so like, have you ever had any, like when I talked to Michael and I asked him like, have you ever felt any negativity from like outside people wearing your knitwear? And he said like, I just probably don't even notice it because I choose not to notice stuff like that. Have you ever had like, since you like knitting through like the whole childhood and like so many times, have you ever had very negative experience related to knitting, or like people still nice about it, like understanding? Or
no, and you know what's funny too, a lot of because I work with a whole bunch of straight dudes on a movie set, they know now I've kind of like slowly been like, oh, this is what I do, you know. I show them my work on Instagram and they're like, dude, you made that? That's awesome. I haven't had anything like that. You know, I've walked into yarn shops before and they're just like, can I help you? I don't know if it has, it's because I'm a dude, if I'm brown, like, and, you know, I taught my best friend Joni Mugavin how to knit years ago, and she loves it. And that's like our thing. She'll be like, hey, do you want to watch a movie and knit? But I've taken her into yarn shops and, you know, they'll make a beeline directly for her. And she's like, you might want to talk to him. And I'm like, I need some alpaca and no eye contact. Like at that point, you lost me. I'm already winding my shit on the winder. It like just check me out.
You know what? Honestly, like that's probably like part of the reason I actually prefer shopping online, because I feel like I go to the dyers that I love. Like I have these connections with like a bunch of different dyers, and it's becoming like personal connection, and I rather support them directly than get that attitude from the.
I agree with
like
you.
I would come and like there's one local store, and I came there and there was like some sort of knitting circle where all these ladies that know each other, and they all, which is like wonderful, whatever. But then I was totally ignored for like the half an hour that I was trying to scroll through it, and I needed to find one color, and I was like, you know, if I just go online and I strike one conversation, I'll have 5 skeins by the morning, you know?
Exactly.
Like, why do I need this attitude?
That's my argument too, because look, when the pandemic hit, there were a whole bunch of LYSs who were kind of like, some of them were nice about it, and some of them were kind of like grouchy. They're like, you need to support us. And I'm like, what the fuck have you done for me? Sorry to curse on your thing, but like, this is Keenan's personality. So
this is my chat, so you can do whatever.
That's right. No, but I've had a whole bunch of indie dyers reach out to me and alpaca farmers and stuff, and I've formed relationships with them, which is awesome. If you want to be an LYS that is successful, then, you know, reach out, know who is in the community, because I can tell you mine is in the French Quarter. And I went in there and I told them, hey, I tried to call you guys. I talked to somebody and I told you I wanted to promote your store for free. I don't want to charge. And I said, Christy Glass is interviewing me. They didn't know who she was. Okay. How do you not know who Christy Glass is? And I explained, and I explained to them who she was. And, you know, still, I was like, you guys didn't call me back. And I dropped $250 in there just to prove a point. And they were just like, oh, well, thanks for coming in. I'm like, I'll go somewhere. I'll start my own yarn shop. Ultimately, my goal, Irina, is to go to South America and, you know, find a fiber mill that is interested in actually producing yarn with my label on it. And you already know me, I'm bougie, so it would be nice quality and an affordable price.
I'll buy. You got me as a customer
right?
right
Yeah.
there.
So, you know, it's like work.
You know what's funny? Like because of the COVID, so I mean, I could probably open a small local
Yeah.
yarn store out of my stash like
Yeah.
easily, you know, because like I find the yarn collection, like I call it yarn collecting. I don't call
Mhm.
it you know, hoarding. Um, I find it like a separate hobby from knitting. I never have a plan for it. I just like,
Yeah.
ooh, pretty color, I must have it,
Yeah.
you know. So sometimes like later I'm like, okay, I should have gotten at least 2 skeins. Sometimes like I now started buying 4 skeins for the sweaters. Like I'm getting there, you know. I'm a
Yeah.
little bit better about it, but it's all impulsive buying. And I'm just so during the quarantine, I met Alison Randall, who is like this amazing designer in Shetland, and she's like famous for her color work. And so we became friends, and she's like, "Do you want to test knit a hat for me?" And I was like, "Yes, please," you know. So and then I'm like, oh, I have all the colors in the world in my stash, right? So I'm going, and my son Daniel, the musician, he's, you know, because he's the mathist, he starts criticizing the amount of yarn I have. And he's like, listen, you never can knit with it like in your lifetime. So I'm trying to find, so she has for the pattern 8 colors. And I'm trying to find the 8 colors that would work for that head. And I have 6. And two
Okay.
of them like miserably missing. And I was like, you see why I need to go and buy more yarn. Well, I'm glad we reconnected. What did I want to ask you? Like I noticed when you talked to Christy, you were talking about food with like you were mentioning the cheese plate with little prosciutto and some olives, and
Yes.
it sounded like you really, really into food. Like, tell me a little bit about it. Like you can tell a person who is like appreciative of every bite on the pretty plate, you know? Tell me
Yeah.
about it.
Sure. So, I mean, you can't be a New Orleanian and not love food. And that honestly, we can talk all day about it to like a stranger. But there's a place when you do come down called Bacchanal, I think you'd like, and they have these amazing charcuterie platters. We just have so many different restaurants here with such amazing food. A lot of people assume that, you know, we eat Cajun food all day, but honestly, we love everything. So we like Indian. There's a pupusa place that just opened down the street a little while ago. We've got Ethiopian food. Anything that's different and ethnic, we want to try it.
Right.
Do you guys have food halls in Boston?
Like, what do you mean by food halls?
A
Like,
food hall is,
like a mall kind of setting with a lot of little restaurants?
yes, but like nicer than that. Like no Panda Express. So these are like,
Nah, like it's mostly like that. It's not
oh
like
no.
really.
So we've got some places here. Pythian Market is one. The other is St. Rock Market, and it's all these little restaurants that just serve amazing food in there. And they usually have a really good craft cocktail bar. And you just go with your friends. And what's great is everyone can get a little of what they like, and you can all share it
Right.
if you wanted to. But that's what we do. We're big foodies here.
Do you have a cook?
Do I
Do you
cook?
have a
I do if I'm entertaining, but like, do I cook every day? Hell no. Like Uber Eats has become my best friend through the pandemic.
oh my God, like seriously, I'm their best customer.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's like because like we were somehow like I was almost an empty nester. I have my youngest is 15, so like he was the only child basically, which
Uh-huh.
he enjoyed tremendously. He loved that fact. And then the pandemic hit, and suddenly like everybody somehow came back home, and everybody wants different things. So my son was vegan. The youngest one doesn't eat anything and says everything I cook is crap. Then like my husband,
He would be
I don't
outside.
yeah. So it's like Uber Eat was like twice a day. They were like delivering to my house because it's the easiest thing. I was like, listen, you want a hamburger every day? Here's
Yeah.
hamburger every day. Leave me alone. You know, let me go
Yeah.
knit.
Exactly. That gives you more time to be creative and knit. I totally agree with that. I mean, who wants to be cooking all day? If I, so in this house, we are known for our fall parties. We will get a full jazz band up in here. We have a full spread of food. You take your shoes off. You can go on the porch. We have Christmas lights everywhere. You know, you can have a glass of wine or whatever. Smoke weed, whatever. But it's
I'm
pretty
coming.
chill.
I'm
That's
coming
New
for a
Orleans.
visit.
Yeah, exactly, right? Um, So we like to entertain here, and when we do that, we like to try to serve the best food. You always have more than you need because it's embarrassing to run out.
Right. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
yeah.
sure you wouldn't. Yeah.
No, no, no. So we
Um,
make sure people take food home.
do you have any other creative hobbies, like when you work, like you're obviously very artistic between the music and the knitting, like was there anything else, any other hidden talents?
So I was in a theater conservatory, and then when I'd get out of school for the day, I would go to New Orleans Ballet Academy. I had a scholarship with them, and so I did dance for a while, many pounds ago. So I enjoyed that. I took voice lessons. Like I said, I had not a good voice.
Okay,
And I
do
took.
you ever criticize Michael Green for his like the toes are not pointed enough or
I
something?
would never. Michael Green's my baby. What are you talking about? No. So I don't know if people know this, but we are the Brat Pack. You know how they've got like was it Brooklyn Boy Knits and Gigi and all them
Right.
up in New York? We've got one on Zoom. So it's honestly, it's Michael Green, it's Crafty Lucas who you're interviewing, Nicole Tobias, who is like one of my closest
I
friends.
should interview.
Yeah,
Sounds like.
Megan Babauta was on here earlier. She's in her 20s, physically beautiful and beautiful on the inside, and a phenomenal knitter. Um, and she's part of the group too. And there's Kim Blegan in Ireland. She's a crocheter and she just started knitting, and that makes me so proud because we kind of like nudged her toward it. So what's really cool is
Funny,
we
I find
have.
like a lot of crocheters who are shy away from knitting, and they all like want to try, but they think it's too difficult because instead of one hook, it's like two things, and it's more
Yeah,
complicated.
it's easy. It's so much more fun. But you know, crochet is cool. It wasn't my jam. I did it before I learned how to knit. But so we've got like our American core group, and then we've got our like Irish group. There's people in South Africa that I've spoken to, in Australia, Liz Langford. I don't know if she's on here. I just, I am so happy that last year I was able to meet so many amazing people. And it would not
Right.
have happened if not for the pandemic, which was a negative, but I think that a lot of people, even if it wasn't fiber arts, had a chance to slow down and ask themselves, what makes me happy? Am I fulfilled by the current job that I'm in or my life in general? And
Right.
to make a change if they were able to. Um,
It's actually very true because like when I was interviewing George Stein, he was the first person I interviewed on the Fiberchats. He said the same thing. He worked in IT all his life, and then he decided to like start dyeing yarn because he's like, I
yeah,
could never find the color that I wanted in the local yarn store, you know? So it's like a lot of people changed their life during the pandemic and like start doing what they actually love, you know? It's like you realize that life is too short to do what you hate. So
I agree. And you shouldn't have to wait until you retire to do something that you enjoy. So for the 13 people that are on here right now, if you were thinking of doing something, making a career change or, you know, doing something outside of your career that you enjoy, do that
today
shit.
is as good as any day.
Yeah, yeah. Don't wait until you're, you know, finally retired from a job. I do want to talk about that real quick though, because the way I was raised was you find a career, you work hard, you're rewarded, you retire. That does not exist anymore. So,
Right.
you know, I have a very short resume because I usually stay at places a long time and try to be as successful as possible. Um, but yeah, that goes back to doing what makes you happy. It's the
Right.
corporations are not there for you. They're not trying to make sure you have a good retirement and all that. So just
Right.
enjoy it.
And I feel like you can become more successful in what you're doing if you're actually enjoying it than if you're miserable at your work. You know, it's like it's just never
Absolutely, yeah.
gonna. Right.
And you just
So it's
never know what kind of opportunities are out there, you know, especially with social media. Like tomorrow, I have an
right.
interview with a lady named Jacqueline who owns the Design Network. They show it on Sling TV and Pluto, and I believe YouTube as well. And she wants to do a few episodes on fiber artists. So I'm
Right. You
definitely going to be
mentioned.
mentioning you, Arena, because you're
Thank
amazing,
you.
and I think you deserve your own episode. And there are a couple other people I think they'd enjoy. As long as they're paying, I'll do it. If they're not,
Right.
I talked to one of the ladies on the film set yesterday, and she was like, when you interview with this, you might want to kind of ask about that because her friend was on Vanderpump Rules. You ever seen that
Mm-hmm.
show?
Yeah.
And it's reality TV. here's something for you guys. If you ever do reality TV, they don't pay you.
Oh, really?
They do not. So this lady quit a $200,000 a year medical sales job to do that.
Right.
So
yeah.
Anyway, just be careful when people approach you. That's why when I was asked through Messenger if I would be interested in doing this, I said, I'd love more information.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my idea was basically like, it's like in the last year, somehow my follower base increased, but I don't really use it for anything. I'm not selling anything, I'm just sitting
You're
home.
just fabulous. That's why you have, what, like 19,000 followers right now?
No, but then I decided that, like, I might as well use it and introduce people that I really like, and, and if it helps, it's great. And, and if it gives them extra exposure, it's also great. So,
well, and I'm happy that you do that.
And I get to learn about exciting cocktails and places to eat in New Orleans, and get to know great people.
But I think that's another thing that's so important in, any creative community is it's great if you're doing your own thing, but it's even better if you're promoting other people and lifting them up too. And that's something that you're doing, which I appreciate and respect you for. That's something that I enjoy doing too. Because, I mean, there's plenty of room for everyone. Some people get really territorial with this whole knitting thing. And I'm like, look, everyone's got a different design aesthetic. It's no biggie.
No, I actually find with the group that it was helping so many people, because there were designers who were promoting their patterns. Yeah. There were yarn dyers who were like promoting their yarn, but then the yarn dyers would like learn about some new designers and they're like, oh, do you want to collaborate? So suddenly like all these new alliances were coming,
exactly.
It's like, so it's,
do you know where I got all this from, Marina? You know where I got all this from? NOCA, New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. So there's different disciplines, right? Theater, ballet, all that jazz. We all came together and we would do projects, even though we were from different disciplines. So it's the same thing with someone who's dyeing yarn, someone who's designing, or even someone who just enjoys knitting, to be able to interact with people. And I think that, stifling someone being able to post to promote themselves is actually doing someone who is interested in their work a disservice, right? Where you're restricted to this hashtag self-promo Monday bullshit. And I can tell you, honestly, the last hashtag self-promo I did was actually to promote somebody else. It was to promote you, to get people to follow you. So it wasn't for me.
Yeah. No, I just like, I find that like we all, especially like in time like this, like it helped with a lot of people, like mental health, to have somebody to chat. Like I have so many people, I'm sure you do too, because especially because you are the bartender, you have it in your nature. Like people come to me and they start just venting about something that's happening in their life. It has nothing to do with knitting. It just became like this like family sense. It's like,
well, you were like the Lady Madonna of knitting, right? We got to get you the Virgin Mary thing. They're just like at your feet, right? No, you're pretty amazing, Irina.
No, but just like it's but it's sort of like it makes me feel connected with people. Like otherwise I would be sitting home knitting by myself, right? I feel like through this through Instagram, through Facebook, through these groups, we all benefit from it, because
I agree with you. That's why we keep the Zoom groups going too. I can tell you, I've become more of an introvert actually, like because Zoom makes it so easy. Like I've got all this fancy stuff on, but I'm wearing flip-flops. It's waiting for you to be like, Keenan, stand up and be like, Irina, I'm not wearing underwear. I have pants on. But I would rather use this medium to connect with people and then eventually connect at fiber festivals than, go out and party and all that stuff. That's boring.
Right.
It's not,
Well, you and I have to meet at one of the fiber festivals one day soon. So that's Absolutely. I'm actually, I'm like, my dream is to have at some point, like reconnect with everybody who comes to my Fiberchats, like meet all of them in some fiber festival. That would be like awesome.
Well, I was joking with my friends about that because we were like, where should we meet? We were looking at like Bryanback, North Carolina, like all these places. And then one of my friends, Ivana, who lives in Boston, if you don't know her, you guys should connect. We were like, she goes, let's go to Iceland. And I'm like, that's how bougie we are. We're like, we couldn't possibly meet in the U.S. We have to fly to another country.
Well,
you know, at this point, after the year of staying home, I'm ready to fly anywhere. So I'll
Yes.
join you
Yeah.
guys wherever you're going.
Absolutely. Iceland would be awesome and, you know,
Yeah.
not expensive.
Right. Well,
But
thank you so very much for joining me. And like, I really enjoyed our chat, and I hope we'll get to meet in person someday soon also.
absolutely. All right. Take care, Rita.
Thank you.